Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Blessed be the Creator, the host of all. Thanking the Most High God for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High God for life, for everything that He does for us, waking us up this morning. Thanking the Most High God for the leader, teacher, and founder of our congregation. One of the founders, even Nasik, or Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaskar, thanking the Most High God for his life, and thanking the Most High God for the life of his family. Praying that the Most High God be with us all of you who are here, who tune in on a weekly basis. We thank you for being around us and for listening and thinking that what we have to say matters. So we pray that the Most High God be with all of you who listen to us. Also, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that anytime we upload a new show, whenever we put up a new video, you will be notified. So today we will be going over the portion of Tetzaweh, and for that I'm going to call up one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Better, Baruch Hashem. That's for sure. First of all, let give praise to the supreme eternal of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The respects to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritually Chief Prince Area being Saska, to the host Chief Uzel, to the Prince Chief Kohanim, Rabbinate, Mortaring, brothers and sisters. I greet you in the tongue of my forefathers and visitors to the channel. Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. Yep. You know, that's strep throat, nasal infection. Subsided a lot. Where I got a little bit of my, quite a bit of my voice back. You know, so that was a long week. Every time I open up, nothing come out. You know, for 4 years. But nevertheless, you know, the Creator's merciful, and when you ain't talking as much, you're thinking more. That's for sure. So that's huh? Well, if you want to stick around, it's going to be a short chapter. It's not really that, the schedule is not really that long, you know. And I'm just going to highlight certain points because we're going to go over these several times within the readings, you know, of this next few Shabbats, you know. So this Tetzaveh starts in the 27th chapter of Exodus, the 20th verse, and it goes all the way to the 30th of Exodus, the 10th verse, concluding there. This we're still speaking on. Last week we focused on actually the construction and the furnishing of the tabernacle and the Mishkan itself, and this week we're going to talk about, you know, the operators within it, and plus one more item, you know, a major item that's going to be brought forth in this particular portion. Interesting enough, this particular portion always comes up just before close around, you know, they say 7th of Adar. Now, traditionally, and I say traditionally because we don't know exact date, that they say Moses not only was born but died on the 7th of Adar, you know, that particular month. And we know, estimated from what we read in the book of Deuteronomy, we had the date when he decided, when he started to write and talk about the words in Deuteronomy. We have the exact year, and we got the exact day that he started to speak in the book of Deuteronomy. So you figure 30-something days, of that testimony there. And then he gave us the goals. We estimate it's around the 12th month of Adar, because now with the 30 days of mourning, and then Joshua being prepared for 3 days to go into the land, we have actually the first day when they crossed over the Jordan. So we have that time frame brought in. So those using those deductions and mathematical equations in there, we summarize. We know the month of Adar would be Moses' month that he made transition. Now, what's interesting in this particular sidra, as it opens up, is first I just read the opening lines of the sidra in Hebrew. Just opening lines. Where Tetzaweh et bnei Yisrael, where Yikud el Alecha, Shemin Zayit Sak, Kati. So, and it says, Lema order, Alo, Ner Tami. So we got some interesting factors going in there. So you can read that in English for me, Chief, the first line.
And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn continually.
All right. Now we study about the menorah at the beginning of Teruma, but yet it didn't say how it should be kindled, what it should be used, what kind of fuel should be used for kindling. All right. And so now we not only didn't decide what kind of fuel, but in this particular portion here, we're going to learn who's supposed to do the kindling of that particular thing. See, so now we have a house that's furnished, and we know what the house belonged to, but we don't have who can be the caretakers or the maintenance men of that particular house. So now, this is the order that we're coming into now when we go Tetzaveh. Now, and what's interesting, that everybody, I'm sure everybody, all the teachers in the various communities have brought this out, that Moses' name is, from the time he's born in the book of Shemot, that just the only sidra, which is about 100 and some pasukim, 101, I believe, pasukim, verses, that is his name is not even mentioned, but much more noticeable too. Is not only his name is not mentioned, you don't read where he said a word throughout this whole sidra. Every other sidra that we read from the time Moses was born, we not only read about his name, his name being mentioned, but you also read about him saying a few things. But this whole particular sidra, which is interesting enough, that he's not only not named in the sidra, and yet he's a key player in it, but he doesn't say a word throughout the whole sidra. And that's very interesting to consider as we're going forward. And when you think about a name, a name is not really your essence. The essence is you actually you. They're just to send you out amongst other people, which I said in the past. So when they talk about you as the first person, direct individual, then the creator is doing all the talking in this particular sidra instead of Moses. So that's something to consider. That this all the dialogue, all the instructions is coming from the creator to Moses, not Moses saying, and the Lord spoke unto me saying thus and thus and thus, which is pretty unique in that sense going forward. And then now they talk about what kind of fuel to deal with the first item that's mentioned in the sidra. And as we go do the first item on this particular sidra, which is the lamp, the menorah, which sets in every talking about cardinal points in the southern part of the Mishkan, outside the Holy of Holies. Because the Mishkan itself is actually two compartments. You had the Holy of Holies, and then you had the holy area, and then you had outside the courtyard where the brazen altar was. So now, not only that, you could continue from the 21st verse. Now we're talking about Ner Tamid, which could burn continually. Now most synagogues that you go to, they always had the light over the the ark area, and they used to call it a mishkan me'at, a little, or a mikdash me'at, a little small, sanctuary itself. So that's what most synagogues, and you see normally a light over where they might have the scrolls, and most established synagogues where that light stay on, and it's supposed to represent that type of element that's mentioned in the Mishkan. All right, so let's continue from the 21st verse.
Verse 21, it reads, "In the tent of meeting without the veil which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall set it in order, to burn from evening to morning before Yehovah. They shall be a statute forever throughout their generations on the behalf of the children of Israel."
All right, already now it's stated that who gonna do this, and they say this ain't a job that they can say we're gonna designate to somebody else, and saying that now we had a discussion, and I just want to share a little bit of discussion we had in another talk I was in on about the Kohen only, lighting it, and actually the Kohen Hagadol actually lighting the menorah. But if it was incapacitated, who would light it? And, I made a statement, said that's a bad sign if the Kohen Hagadol gets sick. Because, his prayer should be the first one, this house should be the first thing, being his job is such an impactful job, but nevertheless, the rationale is there, and it's even so much of a dialogue in reference to that even in amongst the sages, they would say that another Kohen could light if the high priest is happen to be sick or indisposed, unclean for some reason. Then they have another priest in the wing. Now, that's from oral tradition. From the text itself, we won't see that. So that's why I'm sharing that when we had this discussion, because from the text, you don't see where anybody else other than the Kohen Gadol handles a certain function, and when you leave, other people handle that, a certain function within there. But so now the Kohen Gadol, what they have is amongst the discussion is that the Kohen must set up the menorah, and we know that it got to be prepared and set up to be burnt. But since the menorah is inside the Mishkan, only the Kohen could go inside the Mishkan, and so some of the views, which I'm just sharing in speaking, because I know, man, it's hard for us to imagine that now these days, because say, a Kohen, what are you doing? So you say you're a Kohen, how much are you doing? You're teaching, that's what everybody else do. You're praying, that's what some good leaders do and friends do. So what's the great significance? So we might not think that deep about the workings of the Mishkan, because we're so far removed from the Mishkan and far away from the temple itself. So we don't think about the rituals that's already was set up here. And what's interesting is that amongst one of the discussions, they say once the Kohen set it up with the proper oil and the wicks and everything like that, that if they brought the menorah outside the Mishkan, anybody can light it, and then they bring it back in, but anybody can't come in. So that's another story. But I just want to bring out some of those views that, I heard, in discussion, with other people as well. And that's already was discussed prior. But as far as the text go, and I'm gonna keep it simple to the text, is that this is Aaron and his son's job after him. And Aaron being the chief priest at the time, it falls upon him. So, and it says nobody else, if you're not a descendant, cannot, perform certain jobs. So in the 20th chapter, it goes into yes. Oh, okay, hold on right there. Now, that means he got to be in uniform. It's simple. And the thing is that he don't sanctify the garments sanctify him. He don't make the investor in the garments with authority. The garments give him the authority to act. So it's almost like, when a police officer pull up and say, I need to see your badge, like that. Because the uniform is one part, but then you say, okay, they got his badge showing or something like that. There, what's your badge number? All right. But the uniform is stuff investing with a certain type of authority. And a lot of people, and it's set for glory and splendor. So one of the interesting things is dress code. And I come from a place where we was very staunch on how we appear on holy convocations, especially every Shabbat and any other holy convocation, how we come dressed before, the Creator, no matter where we at. And that if he was person nobility officer, you had to, you come to a meeting, unless you're coming from a construction site immediately and just barely got enough time to make it to the meeting on time, you had to be dressed appropriate. When that's the way it was when I grew up. And people always say, man, clothes don't make a man, man makes the clothes, but it makes it clear here that the Creator saying the clothes do distinguish you. Now we just recently witnessed in the world stage, not to be political, but to just bring out a point, is that when I think the president from Ukraine came over to the United States and met the White House, one of the issue is, even though I'm not even gonna go into the talk, was one of the men asked him, "Do you own a suit?" Because you're talking to the president of the United States on a worldwide TV stage with other dignitaries here, and you the only one is not dressed like you here for business and serious. So the reply was, he tried to use Churchill as an example, but Churchill wore like a bomber thing for fallouts. But when he addressed the army, he dressed in the army military garb as support. And he still never gave up his suits when he had to make certain diplomatic moves or talks, So, and it's even to today in certain societies, when you go for certain jobs, and when you go for a job interview, then they're looking about not only your dress, but they even looking at your hygienes, how well what your hygienes is like, and it makes a staunch, a strong impression. Where if they can't, if you're not impressive with your physical, appearance, then it's hard to get past them layers to see what your inner, self is all about. So much so, we know God judges the heart. But what did God do? And when we get into this particular portion here, we're going to find that the Creator himself wind up creating the world, building it all up. And when Adam and Eve was put out into public settings, so to speak, and, the Creator had dressed them up. He had dressed them up, made them, make them garments, and human beings is the only creatures that's not satisfied with just being in their skin. We meant to embellish or cover ourselves up with something that's appropriate. So I just want to bring those particular things out about the power of this particular garment and those that's designated to work in it, and that the garment itself meant more than the individual. You don't have generations and generations of garments. You have generations and generations of individuals, but you be born a Kohen. But that's all you are, born a Kohen. You're not functioning as a Kohen until you are invested with the garments. And that's what it states here. All right, continue. 4 first.
Verse 4, it reads, "And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, and an ephod, and a robe, and a tunic of checkered work, a mitre, and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aharon thy brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And they shall take the gold, and the blue, and the purple, and the scarlet, and the fine linen."
All right, hold right there. Before we go any further, they mentioned two portions of a garment here. All right. And out of the 8 articles of clothing that the high priest wear, because the regular priest, I'm skipped through a lot of it. The regular priest wear 4 articles of clothing. The high priest wear 8 articles. And this particular portion, they're gonna mention, I think 6. And if I'm not correct, I may be correct. 6 or 5. 6 articles of clothing that the high priest will have in this particular area. But the first thing is talk about is the ones that look alike, that's made with the same materials, 5 different colors: gold, purple, scarlet, let me see, gold, purple, scarlet, blue, and linen. All right. So only 2 of the garments that the priests wear, the high priest wear, has all 5 of those different colors in it. And when we were talking about gold before, about metals, the gold is actually pure gold threaded in like thread. So, and what's interesting is that linen, when it says fine twine linen, that's a separate item altogether, which is mostly white. So, and when you talk about the dye, the stuff that's dyed, those things are actually the wool that's dyed. So hence, a couple of his garments, just like with the curtains, are made with wool and linen mixed in it. And you say, well, what about the shatnez law? With wool and linen, we shouldn't wear that. That's, that was prescribed by God for him to have those particular things and those particular items. Now we know when Yom Kippur, he goes in with just strictly linen for 4 articles of clothing, and it just be linen. But when it comes down to his everyday operation, he has actually the royal garments on the high priest, and the other priests don't have that many articles of clothing on them. All right. So let's continue a little bit about the next item, about the ephod, 6 verse.
Verse 6, it reads, "And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue and purple, scarlet, and fine twine linen, the work of the skillful workman. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces jointed to the 2 ends thereof, that it may be joined together. And the skillfully woven band which is upon it, wherewith to gird it on, shall be like the work thereof of the same piece, of gold, of blue, of purple, and scarlet, and fine twine linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and engrave on them the names of the children of Yisrael, 6 on their names on the one stone, and the names of the 6 that remain on the other stone according to their birth."
Right then and there. I just want to stop there before we go to the 11th verse. All right. Now, the names of the children of Israel is engraved on the onyx stones. But then when you talk about the ephod and the breastplate and stuff like that with the stones for each tribe, is different. You have 12 of them, but you have 2 onyx stones. And interesting enough, the onyx stone represents the tribe of Joseph as well. So, that's just something, to consider in a double portion, because you got all the names of the 12 tribes, including his name, 6 on one, 6 on the other, according to their birth. And yet the stone that for each tribe, the individual stone for each tribe, the onyx stone is a tribe for the tribe of Joseph. And so this is just some of the things that I think about as we go forward, and imagine one of the things that's going on. And what it says here, the 12th verse, let's skip down to the 12th verse.
Verse 12, it reads, And thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulder pieces of the ephod, to be stones of memorial for the children of Yisrael. And Aharon shall bear their names before Yehovah upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial.
All right, so the priest, the high priest got a lot of job. Bear their names. Why I need to bear their names? I have my own name. I'm from my own tribe. Even though my tribe is mentioned on there as well. But why I got to bear all their names? And what's the purpose of it? That means that you put me, I'm in a state of responsibility for these people. So when a person, become a, and not, was born a Kohen, he have a tremendous job ahead of them, every function. And, a lot of the prophets, not all of them, but a lot of them, was from the tribe of Levi and was Kohanim. The main one like Jeremiah and Ezekiel, they're Kohanim. Ezra, even though he's not considered a prophet, he was a Kohen, and that stuff. So yeah, whereas, you had Isaiah now, he was one of them Judites, and you had Amos, he said, look here, I just got called for a job. So we have a lot, that when the responsibility of the Kohen is deep. And usually a prophet usually is sent when we get further into that, because the Kohen supposed to bear the weight and be an intercessor and represent man to God, not God to man, but man to God. And when the Kohen is not really doing a good enough job, then a prophet comes. Can you imagine that? So anytime we read about a prophet, that means the Kohen actually failed. The king actually failed. The Kohen actually failed. In that order. The king failed first, the Kohen failed. Now I got to send a prophet outside of his realm of what he normally do. All right. So, and the bed on his shoulders. All right. So now let's go to the 15th verse.
Verse 15, it reads, and thou shalt make a breastplate of judgment to work the work of the skillful workman. Like the work of the ephod, thou shalt make it of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, shalt thou make it. Four square it shall be in double. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span the breadth thereof. And thou shalt set in it settings of stones, 4 rows of stones, a row of carnelian, topaz, and smaragd shall be the first row. And
okay, that's good enough right there. All right. So there's gonna be 12 rows of stones, and the stones gonna be for the tribe. And now we always have different views and debates. What how was the roll set? Whether vertical or horizontal. Top, second, third, fourth, or either one this way, one next three, like that in that order. So there's always it's not clear given here in the text, but we know that the stone, an onyx stone represent Joseph, and in the order of birth, the only one born after Joseph is Benjamin, which is the jasper stone. So it's all, and in some books may have a difference of how they describe what the stones mean from the Hebrew translation into the English translation. All right, so that that's important there. But it says that they're supposed to be a memorial stone, all right, for the children of Israel. All right. So now when we talk about these particular names in the 21st verse, it says, and the stones shall be according to the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engraving of the signet, every one according to his name, they shall be for the 12 tribes. Now, I want to stop there just for a moment. You didn't have a stone that said Ephraim and a stone that said Manasseh. I want to make that clear, all right, because some people will think, I got to have Ephraim here and you got to have Manasseh here, and Levi is left out. No, and just, Levi is on there as well. And as we get later on, we talk about the 6 tribes of blessing, 6 tribes to curse. Levi is included in the tribe of Joseph. So they didn't say the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Manasseh. And hence, when they talk about half tribe of Manasseh, what do they mean by half a tribe? Half of Joseph? Half of Manasseh, a part of Manasseh was on one side of the water, and the other part was on the other side of the water. So we got to sometimes consider the terms and actual what the Creator is saying, because if every tribe is of equal value in the eyes of the Creator, then each progenitor of that tribe is named on them stones, like that, and not the subsidiaries such as Ephraim and Manasseh. Right. So we're going to skip on down, and you're going to find that the 29th verse. Oh, better yet, hold it before I get to 29. Read from the 28th verse, and then go into that.
Verse 28, it reads, They shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a thread of blue, that it may be upon the skillfully woven band of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loose from the ephod. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in unto the holy place for a memorial before Yehudah continually.
All right, before I go to the 30, this is very important. I want to just explain a little bit, elaborate on it just a little bit. The breastplate. Now, my medallion chain be bouncing here and there. Might be over here. Might be in the back. Might be over there. When you have normally a chain on on your body. It might be twisted around backwards. The breastplate had to be fastened to the heart. And, which is interesting, is that it's an interesting gematria numbers. When you talk about the word ephod, the shortest root word, the letters itself is aleph, pay, and dalet. All right, and so aleph, pay, and dalet, it adds up to 85. And which is interesting, that when you write the word 85, you could write it one way, but then the word pay itself, pay, hey, means mouth. Just the mouth. So a lot of times, and so metaphorically, symbolically, they try to say, since the ephod numerical value is 85, and the word pay, which is a pay and a hey, which is 85, as far as the Hebrew letters go, as a mouth, is that your mouth should always say what's in your heart. And that's one of the things you learn from that. So that's why it's fastened to it, that you not only bearing the children of Israel on your heart, and you notice it didn't say chest, it say the heart itself. And you figure the chest is out there first, and then it's the heart underneath all that. So the thing is that a lot of times when we speak, we don't speak what's in our heart. We just say things. But a Kohen, his speech should match his heart. And that's one of the things that you learn and can pick up from that, the ephod itself. And that's why other items mostly, they're talking about that affixed in a certain spot against an organ, of the body. That's an internal organ of the body, and that's one of the things. And it's supposed to be so he could keep in mind not only his job, but also the well-being of the nation of Israel. And that's what a Kohen is supposed to exemplify. All right, so let's go into the next part, the 31st.
Verse 31, it reads, And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and it shall have a hole for the head in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a coat of mail, that it be not rent. And upon the skirts of it thou shalt make pomegranates of blue and of purple, and of scarlet round about the skirts thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the skirts of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aharon to minister, and the sound thereof shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, before Yehovah, and when he cometh out, that he die not.
I hold right there. That's an important line. That 35th verse is really something to consider, because it used the words colloque, for Israelite brothers that used the Q sound, quote, was a coup, lamet, in itself, but for voice, So when we think quolo is, it could be his voice or it could be its voice. So we're talking about the bells. So now, if it's which one it could be, it could vary. It depends on what school of thought you come from, because we know the bells make a sound. And yet when he goes inside to do whatever he do, we don't read anything where he praying when he lighting the menorah, when he praying, when he get ready to take care of anything in there. All we know is that he's supposed to be doing a job. So do we do this job in silence? And then if you the officiator that's designated by birth and invested with the garments to go inside the Mishkan, why should you have a fear of dying if the bells don't clang? This is something, that there's a lot of different discussions that go along with that. But one of the areas you could say, well, we just don't, we got to make a preparation. We have preliminary prayers in the morning, before those that follow a certain tradition. You have certain morning blessings, and then you got the preliminary prayer, the Pesach Day, the Zemarah, and then you got the Shakari, and then they're going all the way on into the other prayers later on. So it's like in preparation to come in there, you just don't pop up at somebody's door. That's what it is, And you say, well, then ain't this his job? Wasn't he designated that job? But it's never his place. You know what I mean? That place was God, the Creator, wanted us to build him a tabernacle. Not us a tabernacle, but the tabernacle that God wanted to build for him so he could dwell amongst us, as individuals. So the thing is that it becomes the property, and when you enter people's property, is a certain type of decorum that's necessary. And also, if you just think about the bells in his voice, and which is interesting when you look at the sound of the voice, say the bells, or either the voice of the Kohen. What do he say when he come in? When he come into the house? We know later on certain things he got to wash up and put on these here and this and that and the other, but we don't find out what he say. We don't know what he's supposed to say at all. We know some of the functions and duties that we read here. So, a lot of times when brothers pray in the congregation, sometimes we just say, oh Lord, I ask for permission to come before you and make the presentation on behalf of myself and this congregation, So, why? Because we just don't barge in on God. That's one of the things. So it's an interesting thing, just to, you probably discuss it more with your various teachers, but it's an interesting concept that's brought here. And it said that he died not. So that means the consequences at the bell, and there's no such thing as a silent entrance. I don't want to make any noise when I come into the tabernacle as a Kohen, because if the bells don't clang, then he possibly could die. So his job is serious, just to go up in there, and that's on that garment. So it's interesting. It's very interesting because now, I don't want to bring too much out now because we're going later, but just to leave thought, when he come in there with those garments, then when he enter the Holy of Holies, he already got clearance on Yom Kippur. So those are some of the things to think about, because the garments that he wear on Yom Kippur to go into the Holy of Holies, it ain't no sound made, but he got to make a smoke screen. Yeah, I wonder if a man could breathe up in there. But anyway, that's another story. Let's move on. Let's bring out some of these things here. Let's go to the 36th verse right quick.
Verse 36, it reads, "And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, and engrave upon it, like the engravings of the signet, Kwadosh la Yehovah, holy to Yehovah."
Okay. All right. So that's what he had, zeets. That's the first time you read the word zeets. For zeets that we wear on the fringes on the garments. That's the first time you find that word zeets used here, and it's about that little band that goes around, and and it's made of gold, but tied up with a blue band, but the plate is gold itself, and it's holiness to the Lord. So that means right in there, not that I am holy, because some people would consider I am holy. Touch not me. Touch not me, because I'm holier than thou. you know, it's holiness to the Lord. That's what matters. Are you holy to the Creator, not holy to yourself? A lot of people, would be, self-centered and consider themselves, all that. So as we go, we talk about, the turban that they wear on his forehead, and with the 38th verse, just read that a little bit there.
Verse 38, it reads, "And it shall be upon Aharon's forehead, and Aharon shall bear the iniquity committed in the holy things, which the children of Yisrael shall hallow, even in all their holy gifts, and it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before Jehovah."
All right, that means right in there. It's funny. We talk about two heads later on. Aaron's forehead carrying a lot of weight of the nation of Israel all year long, and then on Yom Kippur, he putting all these here sins and stuff on the head of a goat. Like, I can't take this no more. After, and plus his sins on top of that, on the head of a goat. So, but the thing is that bear in mind what the children of Israel are doing. That means you got to be concerned about your brother, your human being, how the nation is faring. You can't be a Kohen, and not be concerned of the welfare of the people. We always think about the leaders and kings, but more so the Kohen, because now you have a divine mission that you are born in, and you don't choose your birth. The Creator chooses to allow you to be born into a certain position. All right. Other leaders, you could, achieve it, and whatever the case is. But this is one of the things here that we read. Okay. We're going to move on, and it's going to we talking about the Aaron stuff and everything like that. But let's read, skip down to the 41st verse, and read all the way down to the end of that chapter. 41st verse.
Verse 41, it reads, "And thou shalt put them upon Aharon thy brother, and upon his sons with him, and shall anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover the flesh of their nakedness, from the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach. And they shall be upon Aharon and upon his sons, when they go in unto the tent of meeting, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and unto his seed after him."
All right. Now, several things that's going to be enumerated in this chapter, they're going to be forever. All right. One is the oil for the lamp, the menorah, must be lit all night, forever, for all generations. You know. Then the next thing is the priest cannot function forever unless he have those clothes on. And then third, what we're going to conclude, I'm just going to try and wrap some of this stuff up, is that what we're going to conclude is that nobody can be a priest unless you're a descendant of Aharon forever. So that means that people might have a complaint and say, well, suppose I want to be able to get a chance to serve, which we had in history. We know how that worked out. But people say, I would like to be able to serve God that way. Why I'm excluded from serving God that way. That sounds like that the thing we're gonna read about sometime later on in the year. Why I'm not part of the service. And then but the thing is that also one of the good things is that when it comes to like royalty or the priesthood, you're born into that. That means you don't need to aspire to get there if you're not born into that situation. But when it comes to intellect, scholarly knowledge, that you can achieve, hiding all of them put together. That is something within your realm. So you may not be a priest, you may not be, the king, but you may be one of the most wisest individuals in your community that everybody go to you for advice. And that's we had a guy that went to slavery in David's time, that when he gave you counsel, it was like getting counsel from God. Though he was a character, he was a bit of a character, but his intellect was so great that when he gave you advice, you could best believe, you could take that to the bank, But when we look at this area here about the certain things can be done forever, I want to skip over to another item in the 30th chapter of this here. It goes to the burnt offerings and the oil. And also, one of the things is that what we find in this particular sidra, before I go into the 30th chapter, is that we find that the oil that for the menorah, not only had to be zak, pure olive oil. And they say, well, pure olive oil, that means how you get pure olive oil. And then a lot of things, he said, well, we weren't growing any trees when we was out there, and, in the wilderness. And yet we had the tabernacle functioning. So, we had, where we get all this stuff, to do all these things. And, it seemed, kind of odd that we bring everything we need for a tabernacle before we even got the message about the tabernacle. Because Moses was learning about tabernacle in the first 40 days. So that's another thing to discuss as you go forward, amongst your teachers and stuff. But one of the things we do learn, and they had a big discussion about where's the best olive to get. The one at the top of the tree, or the olives that's in between, like in the middle of the tree, of the olive tree. We know that the olives that's on the top of the tree, they will ripen a lot sooner than the olives that's like in the middle, or in the middle part of the tree, because they got more sunlight. Then you got to say, okay, they'll ripen sooner, and they could be more juicier. But then you got birds and everything that could deal with the top olives first. But the ones that's more into the middle of the tree, they're not going to deal with. So do they mean by purity in reference to that? And then you can say, okay, and when the sun bleached down on the olives on the top of the tree, it becomes soft, so it's easy to squeeze pure olive out easier, as opposed to those that's more away from the sunlight in the middle of the tree, where it'd be a lot more difficult to crush the olives. And yet, unlike grapes, anything like that, we got to have pure olive with no sediment. So there's a big debate between different, discussions. I should say a discussion where should it be from the top of the tree that take olives only from the top, olives from on the middle, or just is to make sure that there's just pure olive and no drudge and stuff like that. There are no sediments in the olives, because you're using the oil itself. So that's something to consider when you talk about zak, pure olive oil, going forward, because birds gonna land on the easiest spot for the fruit when it's ready, as opposed to those that's deeper inside the tree. All right, so let's go with this other item here, which wasn't mentioned earlier, which is the altar incense. All right, 30th chapter.
Chapter 30, verse 1. It reads, And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon, of acacia wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 squares shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of one piece with it. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof and the sides thereof, round about and the horns thereof. And thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make for it under the crown thereof, upon the 2 ribs thereof, upon the 2 sides of it shalt thou make them, and they shall be for places for staves wherewith to bear it. And thou shalt make the staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold.
All right, there. We'll go further. All right. Now, this item here, why is it now that we're starting to talk about this particular item when we don't talk about the shulchan? All right. We don't talk about the menorah. We even talk about the brazen altar, in the courtyard. We talk about the Ark of the Covenant, even going up inside, the Holy of Holies, and how it's made. We talk about the whole making of the tabernacles, and only now we're starting to talk about the altar incense that sits between the table of showbread and the menorah, and closest to the Holy of Holies. So why now, at this particular time, that we bring this up? A lot of discussions going on in reference to this area here, but one of the things to notice that, and just the only item out of all the items that's ever mentioned, as far as, materials that's made, that it has no half a size in it. It's either, 2 cubits or 1 cubit, basically about 3 feet high, So it's the only one. Everything else is cubit and such and such, cubit and so and so, like that. But just the only item that is perfect in a measurement, when a sense there's no half a measurement involved in it. And then now we're just talking about bringing this out, and it's only and it's made with pure gold. Only the staves that carry it, it's a costly wood and overlaid with gold. But the item itself is pure gold, and then it's dealing with incense. All right, so let's pick up from the 6th verse.
Verse 6. And thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the ark cover that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. And thou Aaron shall burn thereon incense of sweet spices. Every morning when he dresseth the lamps, he shall burn it. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at the dust, he shall burn it. A perpetual incense before Yehovah throughout your generations.
All right, before we go to 9th verse. Now, that's a nice ambiance in the house. Go in the house and see a nice decorum and stuff like that. Food offered there, a nice candle lobby setting. Very romantic. Got a nice sweet smell. But the incense had 11 different ingredients in there, and some of the ingredients they consider traditionally could be poisonous. But yet, this is what the Creator had want, those particular 11 ingredients. Some of the ingredients we're not even sure what they are. And so a lot of people, when they try to make, when they say in ancient times, they knew understood because they're living close to the time. But later on, we're not sure what the ingredients actually are, that they actually, made some of the ingredients of. Because they say sweet incense. What's that? What do we consider sweet? It's almost like when they say eating bitter herbs on Pesach. So what is a bitter herb? What do you consider bitter? So that's why you got so many different traditions going on. And then when we look at it in this area here, that he got to have this done twice a day, burning incense twice a day. The minimum prayers we do is twice a day. That's the minimum prayers we do. We're doing, when you're talking about Shakari and talking about Menka prayer, all right, the evening, afternoon prayer. Evening prayer is just instituted pretty much by the sages later on, but the morning prayer and the afternoon prayer, pretty much based on this area here. The three prayers that we do is based on the patriarchs. But that's another story for you to discuss amongst the teachers. And it goes on the 9th verse. It says,
Verse 9 reads, Ye shall offer no strange incense thereon, no burnt offering, no meal offering, and ye shall pour no drink offering thereon. And Aharon shall make atonement upon the horns of it once in the year, with the blood of the sin offering of atonement once in the year. Shall he make atonement for it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto Yehovah. Hallelujah.
Ain't that something? And that's the only thing he said was most holy thus far, besides the Ark of the Covenant, or the or the Adu, as they would call it sometimes, testimonies or the pact. So these are some things we learn here. And before we went, in the next decision next week, I want to just bring out a couple of points too. Is that when we look at the altar of incense, and we look at this whole particular portion of Tetzaveh, what we learn here is that not only Moses' name was not mentioned, but not only did he not, speak or say anything in this whole sidra, everything was about the Kohen. And then another thing we can learn from the ephod that's on the heart, when God told Moses that that your brother Aaron come to meet you and he'd be glad in his heart, he'd be glad because of your position. Normally, an older brother don't be be upset when a younger brother get a higher position than they do. But Aaron was happy to see Moses, and it didn't matter what position he had with the Creator. Whereas Aaron had that same kind of love, and Moses, had the same kind of love to invest his brother with something that he had to bear the nation of Israel on their heart as a whole, including his brother, including his heart himself. So those are some of the items we learn here, and that going forward is that what we learn is that another reason that they might say Moses' name is not even mentioned in this portion, because he's not going to be the Kohen. It's all about what the Kohen is supposed to do, the operators and the officiators in it. Though he trains them, he's not going to be that. Once he's finished the training and the process and the sanctification of those individuals, then the job is theirs and no longer his. So I hope you got some of what I said. Any mistakes from my own, and have a good Shabbat. I remember Purim coming up this. By the time you see this, Purim already be here. But anyway, I'll be highlighting some things on Purim instead of the regular Sidra next Shabbat, because we normally have a little break with a different Shabbat. The Shabbat being Shabbat that just passed, Shabbat Sukkot, and it's talking about remembering Amalek. So you have special Shabbats that come up during this particular time. And, when you think about Amalek, you're talking about why so many, a few centuries later that God tells us to go ahead and avenge himself, of Amalek. And one of the things is that it was never for God to remember to blot out Amalek. It was our job to remember to blot out Amalek. So bear that in mind when we get to Purim, going through the Purim season and everything like that. It was not God's job to remember. It was our job to remember. And it took a while. But we got, when we got enough, security in the land to do what we need to do. And we didn't do that well. With that, I hope you got something about to say. And once again, any mistakes from home, Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom.
Hey, Nasik, before you go, my keeper has it's a coincidence. I didn't know I was gonna read for you today. You know what I mean? It has the words.
But I'm sure everybody else could figure it out too. except for that last letter, look a little bit, more like a hate.
Oh, okay. Maybe because it was knitted.
The first one is a little bit more spacey, but
yeah.
So I don't know about the weaver.
Got you. So, quick question: is there something in the establishing of this tabernacle as to why, when we go from the holies of holies to the holies to the outer courts, that the metals that we begin with are more precious than the one that we end with? Is there an explanation for that? Is there some sort of
not only it's more precious in interior, it also reflects the human being. It should be much more beautiful inside than what you display outside. And you try to emulate that, going outward. But most times you have a rough exterior, just a plain drag exterior in itself, and and that's one of the elements when you think about the human being itself, is that you're supposed to be much more beautiful in and help it emulate out. That's why they mentioned about the ephod itself, and they used the gematria in reference to the pay for the mouth, is that what's in you should come out truthfully. Most people got to drink and then talk about what's really on their mind. They get some courage juice, and then they start to spouting off what's really inside them. So that's and also that this particular portion that they talk about, you say, well, why is it that we have so much detail given immediately concerning the altar of incense as opposed to the altar that's outside in the courtyard? We don't learn about the altar, how we should approach, how to sacrifice on the altar on the outside until Leviticus, Wayikra, because it takes more detail, because it's going to be used more often by so many people outside than the altar that's inside, which is the golden altar. Only one person, one family deal with that altar inside. So therefore, all the descriptions concerning the altar incense could be given inside, because there's only one family. But outside, you got a lot of people coming out there. So, with their different sacrifices. So that's why the outside and is supposed to represent ourselves. It's supposed to be more beautiful inside than out.
Could it be that the altar of incense was most holy because that is actually the last standing barrier between us and the veil and going into the holies of holies?
Well, it definitely is the closest. Uh, I myself will only say it's the most holy because that's strictly a Kohen's job itself on the inside along the menorah.
Okay.
And he had to, the menorah, he don't take a light from the menorah to go inside the Holy of Holies.
Right.
But you got to light up some incense and make it smoke on the censer
To go
pan
into the
to
holies
go in
of
the Holy
holies.
of Holies. And that's part of his permission. And they said he got to make it smoke thoroughly. You know what I mean? So you go in there blind inside there. What are we going to do in there?
Once a
Operating
year,
spirit,
right?
whatever it is. But you go in there blind, so that's why it's considered most holy in itself. And that it that what was interesting is that that's the only thing that's supposed to be perfect. The table ain't perfect, and the menorah itself is not considered a perfect thing. We know it's just made, but we don't have no dimensions.
So was the menorah, being that we're given, we given like, in every explanation that we're given of the articles that are built within the tabernacle, the holies and the holies of holies, everything is for most part in a 45-degree angle. So sometimes we see menorahs that I'm mixing English
Like
and Hebrew.
Kabbalah.
Yeah, that are rounded. What is your opinion of how do you think the menorah was? Was it more symmetrical, like with the 45-degree angles, or was it rounded off? Because I mean, the explanation that we're given is everything that we're creating is like rectangles and triangles.
Right, right.
Or squares. I mean, not triangles, squares and rectangles.
Yeah. Lineal. Yeah,
Linear,
that's
right?
lineal. Yeah. And and which is interesting because that's always a topic of discussion. Of course, Rambam had one view, and the Kabbalah had the view. That's why you see the ones in the Kabbalah that looks more lineal, because
Right.
everything they created had man-made from the ark itself. That Noah rode on. I mean, and stayed in was lineal. So the ark was lineal. All right, the Mishkan's lineal, and then the Beit Hamikdash was lineal. So, so for the menorah to be curved, there's a lot of controversies. I would just say, and then Solomon made 10 more menorahs. We don't know exactly how they look. We just got, the common thing from the Arch of Titus, but the Arch of Titus would be a problem because that menorah have a dragon on it, on the Arch of Titus. So we don't have nothing like that on there, because it's told with how the menorah should have almonds and almond blossoms and cups and stuff of that nature on there. So some people just say, well, the shape outside of that little stem of that's over the arch of Titus would be the most current. I don't know, and I doubt if anybody else know until you find the original one. And um, the only one you ever read about is them taking it. You don't read about the Babylonians taking the menorah either. All right, you read about destroying the columns outside. You know, read about taking the Ark of the Covenant. So you say, well, if if the Babylonians, then you don't read about them taking the menorah, then you say, well, how did they wind up with a menorah during the Roman destruction of the temple and stuff of that nature? So I really don't know. It's going to be some sources out there. There's going to be arguments on both sides of it. About how it was done and what's the shape there. But we do agree on this, that no matter which the source is, that all the actual lamps itself must burn towards the center and almost unite like a one flame. That's why you had this thing like that there with the blessing, it's supposed to unite and go in that direction there. So that's what they all agree on. You know.
Okay, great. Toda Nasik, for your knowledge that the Most High God has blessed you with, praying that the Most High God will continue to be with you, guide and protect you, and I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to bless us all of us who are listening. Once again, I ask you to like, subscribe, and to share. And whenever you subscribe, the notification bell, just press that notification bell, and so that anytime we upload a new video or we put up anything, that you will be notified. and you will know when we are actively coming on YouTube. So thank you all once again for being with us. May everyone have a good Shabbat night sleep. And I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to bless each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom, everyone. And may the Most High God bless you all. Shalom.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders.